Today we're going to look at a couple resources as it regards to court records. And I'm standing here in front of the courthouse here in Wayne County, located in downtown Worcester. Hi, this is Deborah Kitco, Genealogy Librarian with the Wayne County Public Library. This is going to continue in how-to series, but I'm going to take a slightly different approach. A lot of libraries have special and niche items that have been compiled through volunteers or through a local genealogical society or through a local historical society. And I'm going to take a few minutes and explain a couple of the resources we have here. So once the library opens up, you can actually come in and have a better understanding about how to use some of our resources. So we're going to focus a little bit on some court indexes that we have. And there's a book that's called Will Abstracts, Estates, and Guardianships, Wayne County, Ohio for 1812 to 1851. Now, a lot of times when people pick this up off the shelf, they're a little bit confused in terms of how to read the information in there. So I'm going to attempt to try to show you how to actually use this book. It's actually divided in 3 different sections. And once again, this is covering before up through 1851, which is when the Common Pleas Court was actually here locally taking care of a lot of the probate court matters, or what later became probate court matters. In the first start of the book, you'll see that there is a master index. And this is just by last name and by first name. And on this particular book, it actually indicates whether there is a W, which means there's a will recorded, an E, which means that they died intestate and that they do have estate papers, but no will has been filed, and G, which means guardianship. And so there's 3 other sections within this book that refers to that. So, for example, we see that there's a Adams and a James. That's the first entry here. And there's a W next to him. So that means that there is a will for James Adams. And what we want to do, we want to go to the section of this book, the second section, and there's a separate index that includes the index to the wills. So we want to go and look at what it says for Adams, for James, and this is indicating that he's on page 11. Now, I'm going to reiterate, this is the page number in here. Another part of the book refers to something else, so just try to stay with me here. So we go to page 11 in this particular book, and we will see that there is an entry. There should be one here on Adams. Of course, this is what happens. Sometimes indexes can be wrong. Just keep that in mind. Make sure I read James Adams, page 11. So I go to page 11. And for whatever reason, Adams is not on that page. He's missing. Let me try another one. There's a Robert Akey, and he's on page 32. And here we have Robert Akey. He's the 3rd entry from the bottom. And this gives you a nice little abstract. This helps you determine if this could be the Robert Akey you are looking for. So the first item you're going to find is that there's a W3P42-1. So this means that this is actually in Will Book 3 on page 421. The will was written on January 4th, 1850, is probated on January 11th, 1851. This gives the executors as being Robert Cunningham and John Mackey. There's witnesses as William Meeks, bondsman is James Cunningham, and Peter Franks, and it shows that there's real estate valued at $4,000. There's a wife, Agnes, and sons, Robert, and of Richland County, James, Samuel, David B., Thomas, John M., in Williams County, that'd be probably Williams County, Ohio. And there's a daughter, Martha Thompson, married to a Moses, Mary Ann Fadden, married to a William, Caroline, Nancy, and Jane, and then there's grandsons, David Akey, Robert Thompson, and they reside in Salt Creek Township. And over here you have another number. This is A15. This number is used to refer you to the microfilm, and those will be here in our department. You can also access the wills and the probate records through Ancestry, or if you go on to Family Search, you can have the complete one. So this is how you find the will, and you'll see that, well, if you're Robert Akey that you're actually looking for is married to Agnes, then you would be interested in taking a look at this probate record. If we go back through the list, there is also, if we go underneath the name George Bair, B-A-I-R, it shows that there is an estate as well as a guardianship paper for him. So we go to another section of the book. There's an index to the administration of the estates. And so you want to look up Bair. Let's see if I had better luck this time than I did this other time. And this gives you the number 68. This is not the page number. Where the will gives you the page number, this one gives you like a file number within this book. So George Bair is number 68. So we go back a little bit, and these are just numbered in numerical order. And here is George Bair, and this gives the date of January 28th, 1823. This is probably when it was probated. This estate also indicates that the administrators were William McFall, Daniel Bair, Samuel Keppelman. Bondsman is Thomas Wilson, Ben Jones, John Decker, and there's $4,000 of property, and the appraisers were a Jacob Flank and Alex Hanna, and a Mordecai Boone. And he owns land in Chester Township, Northwest 13. That's the section, the Northwest quarter of Section 13. And this one is actually recorded in B47. And I'm going to show you here in a few minutes how you can actually refer to that. You also see over here J3, and it gives a 086. This is referring to the Common Pleas Court Journal 3, and this is the page number within that. So I actually enjoy looking at that original record as well as the full estate. Now, when you're looking at the estate, sometimes the estate papers can be 1 page long, or it can be 200 plus pages long. I think the longest one we've actually found in our department has been 1,000 plus pages, just an estate file. And a lot of people, they're actually wanting to just look for a will, and they ignore the idea of someone died intestate. It's important to note that if someone actually dies intestate, you may find a lot more information within those probate records than you would in the will itself. A lot of times the will may just include the individual's, all the kids' first names. If you look at the estate paper, at the full estate record, you may find that if the daughters, you may find they're married, who they married, including their husband's name. Because during the 1800s, if a daughter was married, their husband had to sign off to receive the property along with them. So you're going to find some connections there. And we'll talk more about this when I do a section on actually looking at court records. The third session in this book deals with the guardianships. Remember, underneath George Bair, there was also a guardianship. So I want to go to the back of this book, and yet there's another index. And so we're going to go to Bair, B-A-I-R, George, and there's 2 entries. It's number 77 and number 194. So likewise, you go back to number 77 in the guardianship section. Bear with me as I try to find a page here. And there we have George Bair, who's the father. You have Hiram, who's age 9 on March 14th, 1829, and who's age 7 on November 26, 1829. And then you have Michael Mowry, who's probably the guardian. And you have Andrew, who's born June 21st, 1816, and his guardian is Sam Quinby. George, who's born November 1st, 1809, and William, born January 1st, 1814, and their guardian would be Jacob Eric. And this guardianship was in January 26, 1829, recorded in case number B121. What is significant about this? This may be the only evidence you have of the actual birth date of these kids. So you definitely want to take time. Now you can refer to B121, but there's also a source citation here that's going to be in the Common Pleas Court Journal 4 on page 254. I would encourage you to go to that Common Pleas Court Journal 4, page 254, because with my experience, Those original Common Pleas Court journals is where you're going to find the detailed information about these birth dates. If you go to file number B121, you'll see the guardianship, but it does not include the birth dates for the kids. So you'll want to look at both of those records as well. So once again, this is the Will Abstracts, Estates, and Guardianships of Wayne County, Ohio, 1812 to 1851. This was compiled by Richard G. Smith and is published by the Wayne County Historical Society Genealogical Section early on. This is before everything became online, available on the computer at index form. It's a very useful source, although you can actually find some of the estate records or probate records online. It's always useful to have these abstracts because you can now tell just from simply looking at the abstract if this is the correct individual you are researching. So this is a copy. When I refer to the guardianship, this is 35 millimeter in which the original Common Pleas Court journal records can be found. And for those of you that are not familiar with what microfilm is, it's basically an archival safe way to preserve images. This is pre-digital age, and you will find that they actually would take a camera and actually have a negative of it. So this is more like, for those of you who have been around for a while, like 35 millimeter negative. It's very similar to what microfilm is. And you'd actually put the microfilm on the reader scanners, and you'd actually want to blow up the image that way. So if you have any questions, feel free to email us or email me personally at dkitko@wcpl.info. You can always contact our department at 330-262-0916. My extension is 4715. So this is just part one of this series, looking at some of the resources in our department.